It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct.
Sunny Hostin just got verbally slammed by Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly in a takedown so savage it could have sparked a global inquiry. One moment she was coolly sipping tea on The View. The next, she was metaphorically crashing face first into her cue cards. What went down on live TV left her blinking like she just opened a nightmare phone bill. This fiery clash had more turns than a drama series written by interns on 5 cups of espresso.
They're disgusting. She's Anna Navarro, in your wildest imagination, you could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate.
Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly, 2 pros at being brutally honest, decided they'd reached their limit with Sunny's so-called intellectual edge. Maher's scorching sarcasm collided with Megyn's icy, laser-sharp breakdowns, and suddenly, Sunny's bold stance looked more like a shaky IKEA chair ready to collapse. It didn't feel like a debate, it felt like an academic wrecking match, where Sunny showed up with a glue stick, and they brought bulldozers.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But
let's kick things off with Sunny's go-to move, wielding her law degree like a smug lightsaber of superiority. Her resume may as well be stamped on her forehead: former federal prosecutor, legal whiz, and full-time finger pointer. But let's be real, when someone starts with "as a lawyer," you already know it's about to be either dead wrong, painfully obvious, or unbearably arrogant. Somehow Sunny hits all 3 at once, like a courtroom TED Talk with 0 facts but overflowing moral high ground.
That hot mess that they air in the mornings called The View had to issue not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 corrections, legal corrections, 4 legal notes. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
Sunny Hostin didn't just face pushback, she got flattened in a full-blown clash of ideas. All she walked away with was her classic frown of disapproving judgment. Having bold views is fine, but turning every chat into a preachy lecture from a moral mountaintop? That's Sunny's whole act. She's not debating, she's starring in a courtroom play where she's the judge, the jury, and the applause sign. But Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly don't play along. They don't beg for claps, they come armed with sharp wit, cold facts, and razor logic. And suddenly, Sunny's high-energy performance looks like a flop improv scene with no laughs. Even when trapped by plain truths, she doesn't adjust, she just gets louder, as if volume means victory.
Any term you want.
Okay.
Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
or maybe the super far right. Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maher sat back, calm, seasoned, and utterly unfazed, like a professor reading yet another essay titled, "Why I'm Always Right." He didn't interrupt. He didn't have to. Sunny's speech was its own undoing. With every smug breath, she sank deeper into a pit of buzzwords, rehearsed rage, and the unmistakable whiff of self-praise. Then Megyn stepped in precise, sharp, almost surgical. No yelling, no drama, just pure dissection. She stripped away Sonny's fake depth piece by piece, until all that remained was an echo of recycled outrage bouncing in an empty shell.
And finally, new rule, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Sonny's whole act depends on one thing never being questioned. She doesn't do back and forth. She performs, accuse, exaggerate, moralize. That's her usual recipe. But when someone like Kelly quietly pokes a hole in that overblown bubble, the collapse is instant and brutal. What came next wasn't a small stumble. It was a full-on crash of her beliefs. When your entire image stands on shaky beams of moral pride, even a soft challenge feels like an earthquake. And this time, that delicate house of cards didn't just shake, it crumbled in jaw-dropping secondhand embarrassment.
They had a discussion on The View about world superpowers from the sound of it. That's how they got into it. And Sonny Hostin made some comments about patriotism and America and Black America. It's all in there, Jason. I mean, it's all in there. I'm going to tee it up. It starts with Alyssa Farah, who's supposed to be the Republican commentator. And then you'll hear Sonny jump in. Listen.
If America is not the #1 global power, it's not going to be Denmark. It's going to be communist China, a country that right now the government is imprisoning Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. It is a deeply racist government. It's a human rights violating government. It is a government that if they are the leader of the free world, we are not a free world the way that we are right now.
The notion of patriotism and the notion of America and the American flag has been co-opted by the right as if they are true patriots. But when I listen to Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, he said white supremacy is the biggest domestic threat to this country.
Megyn Kelly, whose very presence seems to set Sonny Hostin off like a fire alarm in a library nap room. It's honestly impressive how fast Sonny's pitch spikes the second Megyn's name is mentioned. Megyn wields a rare and apparently dangerous talent, speaking with facts in full sentences. On The View, that's treated like black magic. If you calmly explain data or outline a timeline without a dramatic gasp or staged meltdown, you're instantly a threat to their bubble. While Sonny clutches her pearls over another made-up political doomsday this week, sponsored by Vague Vibes and MSNBC, Megyn coolly exposed the truth. She brings sources, she uses numbers, she talks without yelling. It's a terrifying masterclass in calm logic and actual reading, the two scariest things to ever hit that panel.
Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, yay, on January 20th. Of this month. Not everyone's happy about it, and many people would like us to be more focused on the insurrection that he personally unleashed. If you ask them, as we discussed earlier, they think it's as bad as like the Holocaust, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here is Sonny Hostin of
January
The View
6th was
today.
an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Yeah, the January 6th is right up there next to the Holocaust and slavery.
This wasn't even a fair match. Sonny came armed with emotional smoke bombs, theatrical outrage, and interpretive dance moves meant to represent oppression, while Megyn calmly fired off precision strikes of reason that tore the whole script apart. It felt like someone showed up to a chess match with a coloring book, then got furious when the opponent knew how to play. You could practically see Sonny's brain glitching in real time. Every time Megyn dropped a fact, some logic, or a historical reference, Sonny's only move was to rush back into her fortress of fury. It was like watching someone argue that 2 + 2 equals injustice, and then scream when someone grabs a calculator. You're almost waiting for her to yell, "How dare you bring math into this?" And let's not even start on Sonny's battle against comedy for someone with a legal background. She seems oddly offended by jokes. In her world, sarcasm is cruelty and satire is emotional violence.
I want you to note the tone they all talk with him. I want you to look at Sonny Hostin's body language and the way they look at him and everything else. Just because he is a lefty who hasn't gone completely bananas, here they are talking about the word woke.
The term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and so
migrate.
why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate.
It's 2025, and somehow Sonny still hasn't figured out that comedians exist to roast everyone. That's literally their job. Expecting Bill Maher to avoid mocking public figures is like walking into a bakery and freaking out that they sell bread. Yet every time Maher even breathes, Sonny reacts like someone just broadcast her cringy middle school diary, complete with heart doodles and that one tragic poem about justice. She gasps, "How dare he?" like being offended is a solid rebuttal to a comedy sketch. But the real showstopper, her painfully awkward attempt to out-intellectual Maher and Megyn Kelly live. She started tossing out historical facts like a toddler throwing spaghetti. Wild, messy, and aimless. She launched barely formed legal lingo like pinless grenades, hoping to sound deep, but it all came off like someone who just discovered Wikipedia that morning. If this were a courtroom, the poor stenographer would give up, type nonsense, and file for a mental health break.
Whoopi Goldberg was angry when Alyssa pointed out that Trump went to the funeral of Officer Diller.
Yes.
On Long Island, and Joe Biden went to a podcast. Look at Whoopi Goldberg's reaction.
Choose what you like there, but for Republicans, it was good imagery.
Really?
One day later, yes.
And I'm asking that because I was so offended because you know who showed up.
Yeah.
And he was, whether he was asked or not. This
But he
is a
was
man
invited.
who didn't care what happened to the officers on January 6th.
She promotes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris every day on that show. Trump wasn't supportive enough of the cops who were, yes, in danger on J 6th. How does that explain their behavior on a daily basis?
Bill Maher, calm as a cucumber in a cryo chamber, just sat there, letting Sonny's rants bounce off him like Nerf darts hitting brick. This isn't his first ideological rodeo. He's been navigating heated debates since the days of dial-up. You could almost feel his media-seasoned brain rolling its eyes every time Sonny tried to pin him to her imaginary cross of moral outrage. She really thought she was delivering a show-stopping finale, the kind that ends up clipped and shared by 20 Instagram pages with names like Woke Warrior Queen. But Maher, he was already mentally sipping his third glass of wine and checking flight times in his head.
Last week you called white Republican women cockroach.
Actually, I didn't. And
You said they're acting like cockroaches.
I used in a similar. Let me answer that.
Okay.
I used a metaphor. Here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to tone it down a bit because I can't hear anything. No one can hear what's being said.
She just said I called white women
why
roaches.
people
All right, we're going to go to break. We're going to break. Can't take it.
Megyn Kelly didn't even raise her voice. She didn't have to. Her responses were so sharp and calmly delivered. It felt like Sonny was being politely taken apart by someone who'd already signed her credibility's obituary. This wasn't a debate. It was a televised exorcism with Megyn as the ice-cold priestess and Sonny flailing, insisting that facts were just opinions dressed in bad vibes. And let's not ignore the real tragedy. Sonny's rock-solid belief that her outrage is always noble. She struts like her takes are commandments carved in stone, and anyone who dares disagree must be burned at the stake. She doesn't engage in dialogue. She stages trials with bullet points and dramatic sighs. It's not discussion, it's theater, complete with judgment.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Let's not do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
This might be forgivable if she were at least interesting, but no, Sunny's version of enlightenment is a cocktail of smug tone, cherry-picked stats, and tear-soaked stories. She can rant for 10 minutes about injustice while citing a Starbucks order as her source material, and by the end, you're not informed, you're just unsure if you're still allowed to think for yourself. And the irony, Sunny brands herself a champion of women until one dares to disagree. Then sisterhood turns into war paint, when Megyn Kelly calmly suggested that not every disagreement equals racism or sexism. Sunny looked ready to tear up her woman card on the spot, because nothing screams feminism like telling other women to shut up unless they parrot your talking points. But the meltdown reached legendary status when Sunny pulled her ultimate move, shifting from failed arguments to playing the wounded hero. When logic fails, she leans on emotions. When those run out, she accuses her opponent of endangering democracy, puppies, and Sunday brunch. The range is breathtaking. Maher, of course, doesn't take the bait. He just points out the absurdity and leaves Sunny stumbling, trying to salvage a shred of dignity buried under a pile of deleted tweets, abandoned hot takes, and millions of eye rolls from viewers craving coherence. Sunny Hostin collapsing live wasn't a physical fall, it was the collapse of a belief system that melts when touched by reality. She spoke like she came to save the country with sheer volume. But instead, she got schooled in logic, humor, and the shocking idea that maybe, just maybe, she's not always the sharpest person in the room, especially when others don't need cue cards to keep up. Sure, her fans will call it courageous, but what we witnessed was a meltdown in heels, a desperate grip on the illusion of moral purity in a world exhausted by all the screaming. There's a reason the remote hits mute when Sunny starts up not out of hate, but out of survival, because at some point, people would rather listen to a chainsaw on a chalkboard than sit through another lecture on why laughter is oppression. And in the end, no matter how loud she yells, how often she clutches her pearls, or how many times she insists she's right, nothing changes the fact that Sunny Hostin just got absolutely scorched on live TV. And when the smoke cleared, the ashes spelled one brutal word: overexposed.